What is the difference between childhood trauma and PTSD? Hi, I'm Karin Hill, and as someone who's an expert in trauma, I really get asked this question quite a bit. So what is the difference between PTSD and childhood trauma? First, PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, is really a mental health condition that can develop in people who have either witnessed or experienced, a traumatic event. It is things like natural disasters, war, violence, or even life-threatening situations that will develop PTSD. And it's the symptoms of PTSD, which may include things like flashbacks and nightmares, avoidance of any of the triggers, or even hyperarousal. But the difference with childhood trauma is that it refers to the experience of things like abuse, neglect, violence, or any other adverse events that occurred during childhood or adolescence. Childhood trauma can really have a long-term effect on a person's physical, emotional, and psychological health. And some of the examples of childhood trauma really include things like physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, and any type of household dysfunction. Even bullying and divorce can be very traumatic for children. And while PTSD can result from childhood trauma, not all childhood trauma actually leads to PTSD. Childhood trauma can really contribute to the development of a range of mental health conditions, including depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and even personality disorders. And it's the severity and duration of childhood trauma that can also impact the likelihood of developing these conditions. The most important thing to know is that healing from both PTSD and childhood trauma is possible. Because if the effects of both are never dealt with, they will continue because they're trapped in your nervous system, which is run by your subconscious mind. That's why no amount of talking about the symptoms can actually stop the trauma. It can only be dealt with on a subconscious level where it resides in your body. And unfortunately, it will continue forever if it's not dealt with and resolved. The thing that's interesting about what's in your nervous system and your subconscious mind is that it's there to keep you alive. And its only job is to keep you alive and keep you breathing. And so that's why your subconscious mind doesn't care if you're happy or successful or depressed or sad. It only cares that you're still breathing, and then it's doing its job. That is the only job that it has, is to keep you alive. So unfortunately, your subconscious mind, it just doesn't care if you resolve the trauma or not. As long as you're still breathing, it's doing its job. So that is why no amount of talk therapy can actually resolve trauma, because that's not where it is. It's stuck in your nervous system. It is in your subconscious mind. It's the part of your mind that you can't access consciously. If you could, you would have by now. So I hope this answers the question of what is the difference between PTSD and childhood trauma. And if you have any other questions that you'd like me to answer, just please feel free to leave them in the comments or message me, and I'll be happy to. So until we meet again, wishing you all the best.